Hi, I'm Dahlia. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are gonna get personal. There are a lot of tips and advice out there about how to save money, make money, how to get rich, be frugal, and all that jazz. And today I wanted to give you things that I actually did over the past 8 years that have allowed me to finally save enough money for a house deposit and buy my own place to live in London. So that old chestnut of stopping buying lattes so you can buy a house, this on its own is dumb advice because stopping spending £4 a day on its own, no, that is not going to get you a house in London or any other expensive city for that matter. But there is a grain of truth contained in this advice, and you just need to look at the bigger picture because building wealth, saving for a house, or whatever financial goal you have isn't just about doing one thing. It's about building a set of tiny habits and systems for yourself that over time lead to big results. In this video, I'm going to take you through 20 things that I actually did to save £100,000 during my 8 or so years on this journey while living in the expensive city that is London. If you're new here, welcome to Get On Top, where I am dropping life-changing advice every single week to help powerhouse people like you get on top of your finances. Let's go. So let's get into it. Before I start, I want to get you into the right mindset. I need to tell you up front that doing just one of these things that I'm giving you the idea for may not make a huge difference to your savings, but doing multiple small things that form habits that you keep up consistently over time, that is where the real magic happens, my friends. So I'm going to take you through all of the unsexy habits that I did that got me to 100K and what these habits combined can save you over 8 years, which was my actual time horizon that it took to save for my house deposit. So since everyone talks about it, I am actually going to start with coffee. Does it really make a difference? So I love a coffee, a matcha, a cute takeaway cup as much as the next person. But you know what? This is one habit that although it seems like you are just spending a tiny amount at a time, it really does add up. So I love coffee and I love to treat myself, but I have made myself a rule, and that is that I will only buy coffee out once a week. That doesn't mean I'm depriving myself of nice coffee. I buy really good quality ground cafetiere coffee at home, and I use an espresso machine or a filter, and I have amazing coffee every single day. But I save that once a week for getting a coffee somewhere really nice, like if I'm going into central London to a fancy coffee shop or meeting friends, rather than making it an everyday unconscious habit. If you think cutting down on this one small habit isn't going to do anything, let me show you the numbers. So spending just £4 a day on coffees on weekdays, that's £20 a week, 52 weeks, and that is £1,040 a year. If you invested that money instead at an average of 7% interest, which is what standard index funds return, that £20 a week invested over 8 years, which was my real time horizon, is £11,177.71p. And you've also made £2,837.71p in interest. So is that 100K? No. Is that a house deposit? No. But making this small habit into something that you can actually save and put away for your goals instead, combined with everything else I'm going to tell you, is going to make real results. This next habit saved me thousands, and it may seem obvious, but that was switching to a cheaper supermarket for my weekly shop. So, true story, I lived around the corner for a Lidl for 12 years. During that 12 years, I did not set foot into that shop once. What was I doing instead? The time-strapped person who was not thinking about the long-term savings was getting Ocado deliveries every single week. So this was something that was just an unconscious habit for me. It was convenience. It was all the nice things that they have on their website. I have a smart pass. So I was getting Ocado deliveries once and sometimes even twice a week. I was spending regularly £80 to £100 a week on my groceries. When I started getting serious about my savings journey, I decided to walk into that Lidl that I had never been into for 12 years. And lo and behold, I was able to do my weekly grocery shop for £40. To say I was literally shocked by how much cheaper it was there, I mean, I had just never thought about it, and I'd never thought about it in terms of how much money I could save in the long term. So let's run the numbers. So now instead of that average of £75 a week I was spending at Ocado, I'm now spending £40 a week. If you save £35 a week on your groceries and invest that, your future investment value is going to be £19,561 in 8 years, and you would have made a total amount of interest on that of £4,966. Incredible, right? When you look at the numbers like that in the grand scheme of things, how much it really adds up, I think it's quite shocking to most people. The third unsexy habit that I have in regards to saving money on food is meal planning. So I work from home and I eat most of my meals at home. But when I worked in an office, I did this too, because I realized at one point that I was spending about £20 every single day that I was in the office, from breakfast and lunches to coffees and snacks and just boredom eating, to be honest. Once I decided to start meal planning instead, the amount of money I saved was literally insane. I would still let myself buy lunch out once a week with colleagues, so it was a bit of a social as well. But once I got into the habit of making a full week of meals on a Sunday and taking these into work, I was saving well over £80 a week. In regards to saving even more money on food, what I do now at home before I go on my weekly food shop is I take everything out of the fridge and see what ingredients that I need to use up and think of recipes using those ingredients up and what basics I need to buy to add to that recipe. Now, you may think, I don't know how to cook, I don't know how to think of recipes using ingredients. Well, I got you, or rather AI got you. If you use an AI, it is so easy. I'll literally go into the app and say, hey, I've got some lettuce, potatoes, chicken, spaghetti, feta cheese, whatever you've got in your fridge. And what can I make with adding minimal extra ingredients? And it will give you like 5 ideas for you in a few seconds and even write out a shopping list. And this is a great way to use up everything that you have in your fridge. Once a month, I will also take everything out of my pantry, including spices, check the use by date on them, and I'll rearrange my pantry, putting the things that need using up first in the front, so I can see them and incorporate them into my weekly meal planning. While we're on food, I truly believe that you can really hinder your savings progress by being too frugal or frugal 100% of the time. So it's also really important to treat yourself. For me, this is having a meal out with a friend once a week. And that is something that I really value. I'll give myself a £50 budget for this a week, which in the context of not buying coffees and meals out all week and making me feel like I'm having a little bit of luxury in my life is something that really helps me to be consistent with all the other money saving hacks. So I am a massive skincare girly, and I think obsessed is the word that you're looking for. I would previously regularly spend hundreds of pounds every month on all of the fancy creams and cleansers and serums that are in existence because I love looking after my skin. I also enjoy the process of using a lot of products. I'm not a splash with cold water and put Nivea on my face kind of person, and I never will be. So 3 big shifts I made during the last year to spend less on my skincare were firstly switching away from big brands on luxury sites like Cult Beauty to Korean skincare. Now, I know this is all the rage at the moment, but in my personal experience, I've found this to be really high quality, and the best part is that these products are super cheap. So instead of spending £60 or £70 on a high-end brand moisturizer, I'm not spending more than like £20 or £25. Likewise, cleansers, I was spending regularly £40 on a cleanser, and now I get them for around 18 or less. When you add all these up, it makes a huge difference to your overall beauty spend. I use a site called Skin Cupid for my Korean skincare. This is not an ad, but please sponsor me. With this skincare switch alone, I'm saving about £200 a month. Next up is actually using up an entire product before buying a new one. Now, I, as much as anyone, get a huge rush from clicking add to basket and then checking out. I really do. And when that little box arrives at the door, I mean, it's the same as true love, is it not? But a huge mindset shift that has helped my wallet too is waiting until I'm actually at the bottom of the bottle before buying a new one. That way I don't accumulate products that just sit around and don't get used. And meanwhile, you then end up having to throw them out and you're wasting a ton of money in the process. Thirdly, I make my own body lotions in bulk. hear me out. I actually really enjoy this process. It's a fun activity for a Sunday afternoon, and it's not as hard as it sounds. It's basically having about 5 ingredients that you can buy really cheaply on Amazon, like shea butter, cocoa butter, almond oil, essential oils, and throwing these all into a food processor. I make about 6 months worth of body butter at a time, and it's not only really cheap, I genuinely love it. They smell so delicious, and they are so much better for your skin than putting on store-bought chemical-filled lotions. I'll link a recipe in the description box below. If you want the exact ingredients I get on Amazon, please comment and I will link those too. Now, all my Pilates girlies, I want you to pay attention here. I, for one, love getting fit, but I had gotten myself into an unsustainable fitness habit, financially that is. I was going about 3 times a week into central London for spinning and reformer classes, a habit that was costing me more or less £22 a class. That adds up to £66 a week, or around £264 a month. Not only that, I also had my gym membership, which is £50 a month, and I was probably only going there once or twice a week. That is over £300 a month that I was spending on my fitness. Not to mention, because I work from home, I was also spending about £8 every time I went into central London to take a class, plus the matcha I was buying when I went in. This all added up. So I cut this habit about a year ago when I reassessed what was really important to me in my fitness goals. And I realized I don't even like Pilates enough to be spending all that money on it, and I really only wanted to do it occasionally. So I decided to cut out the luxury fitness classes altogether and just stick to my regular gym. And I saved that £264 a month now, as well as all the tube fares. So in just 1 year between making these 2 small changes, I have now saved over £4,320, which is a crazy amount if you think about it. Look, I'm not saying cut out reformer if it is your only source of joy in life, but I am saying reassess your fitness and financial goals right now and make a shift from fitness trends to real fitness habits that get you the results that you want. There are also so many completely free fitness classes on YouTube now that you don't really need to pay for any classes at all, unless you really just want to get inside, have a social, or you have zero space at home. But there are so many free ways to get fit now that you don't need those expensive, trendy classes. Next up is making better clothing decisions. And one of those for me is cutting out fast fashion. Now, I've never been a massive fast fashion fan, to be honest. Sure, it gives you a little buzz and a thrill to wear something new this weekend, but the toll on both your wallet and the environment is really too high to ignore. So over the past 10 years, I've shifted away from buying fashion trends to buying classic and high quality clothing that is deliberately not in fashion so that I can wear them for years. And honestly, a spend on £100 jumper that's amazing quality that you wear for 10 years is so much better than a £20 jumper that you have to throw out after 1 season because it has pilled or stretched due to the bad quality fabrics. I so often get comments from my friends on something I'm wearing, and I more often than not find myself saying, "Oh, I've had this for 10 years. That comes from knowing your true style and only buying things that you know that you're going to wear again and again. I so rarely buy clothes now, probably only things that I truly wear every day, like quality activewear pieces, but I focus instead on classic pieces that aren't going to go out of style. When I do want something designer, I like going on sites like Vinted or Vestiaire Collective and search for the brands that I love there. I once found a classic Prada puffer coat in black on Vestiaire Collective for £300. And while that sounds like a lot of money, that coat was worth about £2,000 in retail value, and it was brand new. I've worn this coat non-stop all winter for about 6 years, and I'm going to keep wearing it because it's a gorgeous classic. Yes, there was a high initial outlay, but imagine using the same amount of money to buy 3 different crappy coats from fast fashion companies that aren't anywhere near the same quality and eventually end up in the charity bin. No, it's not girl math. As someone who just moved house and gave about 10 bin bags full of clothes to charity, I can confirm that you don't need that new top. Next. So I obviously have not cut out all shopping, but when I do shop, I use a discount code. Now, obviously, we can't cut all spending out of our lives, But something that I'm now in the habit in before making any online purchase is Googling to see if there's a discount code for that store. You will be amazed how many discount codes you find once you get into this habit, but I regularly save 5 to 20% on all online purchases that I make. If you want to make this even easier, sometimes AI can scrape all the codes for you into a neat little answer if you type in the prompt, show me all the current working discount codes for blah, blah, blah shop. The next habit that I want to get into is planning your fun stuff in advance. Now, hear me out. We all have things that we love doing, especially if you live in a big city like London. You like going to gigs and concerts like I do. That's something I like doing with friends about once a month. I also love traveling, which I'm going to get onto later with some hacks for making massive savings on your flights. However, I am constantly shocked and amazed by friends who never plan in advance for the fun things that they want to do. And then it gets to 2 weeks before the event and they are like, oh, the ticket prices have gone up. I can't afford it now. Well, obviously you can't. This is where I'm going to give you some tough love and tell you to get your shit together. Some of you are allergic to making future plans, saying, oh, I don't know what I'm going to be doing that night. Well, I have news for you, honey. If you buy a ticket now, that's what you're going to be doing that night. Living your best life cheaply while everyone else sits at home watching you on their Instagram stories. Tickets for concerts and gigs are the cheapest as soon as they come out. They put the price up closer to the time for people like you who are waiting for the last minute to make plans. If you like going out, this bad habit of not planning in advance can cost you hundreds in higher ticket prices. The same goes for travel. So I come to Brazil every January. That's just part of my routine because I hate winter. That's where I am now in my summer clothes. And I am booking that trip usually 10 months in advance. Then I have friends who in December are talking about, oh, maybe they'll come to Brazil with me in January. And you know what? 100% of the time, they don't come because the flights and accommodation have gone up in price so much that they can't afford it now. So do future you a favor and plan your fun and your holidays well in advance. You'll be happier and you'll be richer both in your wallet and your life when you have all of these fun experiences booked at a fraction of the price. The next thing I did in my journey to saving 100K for my house is cutting my Uber habit. When I did a financial audit on myself about a year ago, I was absolutely shocked and appalled that I had developed a £100 a week Uber habit. Yes, crazy, I know. This was in addition to paying for public transport in London. On average, I was taking Ubers home about 4 times a week. That is £5,200 a year that I was spending on Ubers. Now, that habit is something I've cut down on just in the last year since I did that financial audit. And while it's not realistic for me to never take Ubers, I've cut it down to once a week only, which is my new rule for myself. And usually that's on my way back from a night out. So I am saving £75 a week, 52 weeks a year. That is £3,900 savings in a year. Next up, switching utility providers. I'm surprised by how many people sleep on this. Once a year, switch your utility providers. You should be able to cut about £40 off your monthly bills about once a year by switching providers. This is a very achievable amount if you think about how many bills you have coming out. Things like mobile phone bills, gas and electric, Wi-Fi, insurance. These can all be switched every 1 or 2 years. I do an audit of my bills twice a year, and any contracts that are up, I look to switch straight away. And for any existing contracts, I go to the provider's website to see if I can switch to a better deal. So if you take that £40 a month bill savings and invest it like I have for the last 8 years, here is what the numbers are going to do. £40 a month over 8 years has a future investment value of £5,231.42. The amount of interest that you're going to earn is £1,351. So making little switches like that, even though it doesn't seem like much money per month, can add up to so much over time. Another thing I do to save me loads of money on mobile phones, and again, it's one of those things that's a larger initial outlay, but you'll pay so much less in the long term, is buying my new phones outright from a refurbishment site. So a site that I've used is Backmarket. You really don't need the latest iPhone. It is such a scam. I know that they're always upgrading the cameras and stuff, but for example, I film this content on an iPhone 14 Pro that I bought refurbished outright for £500. if I wanted to get a new phone contract for the latest iPhone, the deals that they typically give you cost, more than £50 a month. So over the life of the phone, you are actually spending so much more than what the phone is worth. I'll always buy a refurbished phone outright and then get a really cheap SIM only contract, which is something like around £12 to £15 a month with unlimited data. You can save so much money over the life of your phone by not having a contract and doing this method instead. Then you can also normally trade back in the phone back to the same company that you bought it from and then get your new phone that way and save some money too. So not everyone knows this, but in the UK, a lot of banks will actually pay you money to switch over to them. So you can find the latest deals and offers on money comparison websites. Today I had a look on Money Supermarket and I was able to find a deal where First Direct was paying £175 for people to switch over to them, and Santander has an offer of £200 to switch over to them. The deals and offers typically range from £150 to £200 to switch. So if you do this twice a year at an average of £175 and invested that money, in 8 years, you're going to have a total investment value of £4,124 and you will have earned £1,149 on that. Nothing to sneeze at. Now, while we are talking about banking, did you know that banks actually charge you a huge amount of interest on going into your overdraft? Something like around 40%. I didn't know this, and when I saw the percentages, I was shocked. This is absolutely astronomical when you think that credit cards only charge you 25%, and even that is a lot. So I avoid overdraft charges by checking my bank balance every single day. And if I'm going to go over because I have a lot of expenses coming out that month, I use my 0% interest credit card for purchases instead of going into my overdraft. So let's talk about 0% cards. Girlies, I love to shop and go out for dinner like everyone does. Do I always have the money for this? No. Do I do it anyway? Yes. Though I have reined my spending in a lot in recent years, I don't believe in depriving myself of things, especially because I work really hard. So occasionally I'll charge something big onto my credit card. Let me justify this now by letting you know that I'm a freelancer, so my pay schedule can be really irregular. I don't get a regular monthly paycheck on a set date of every month, but I will have money coming in at random times. So sometimes I spend on credit knowing that I have a big payday coming next week, for example. That system works for me because I really track my money, but I would only do this if you know that you're able to pay it back. So credit cards typically charge you 25% or more interest, and if you regularly have a balance of a couple of £1,000s, over 1 year of holding that kind of balance on a card, you'll be paying back the banks £500 a year on interest. That's on a £2,000 balance. When you think about it, that is a crazy amount and one you could use to so many other useful things in your life. So what I do as often as I need to is I take out a new 0% balance transfer card. What this is a credit card with a deal where they don't charge you any interest for a fixed period of time. And if you need to transfer debt over from another credit card that's charging you a high amount of interest onto this card, they'll charge you no money for that as well. To get one of these, go onto a comparison site like Money Supermarket or Compare the Market. Fill out a quick form and then have a look at the best 0% balance transfer options. Now, important to make sure it doesn't have transfer fees either, and then it gives you at least 12 months interest-free on balances. And boom, that £500 interest that you were spending a year on a £2,000 balance is now zero. The next thing that is a massive habit that I've developed is traveling cheap using rewards cards. Now, I am always amazed when this discussion topic comes up amongst friends, how few people actually do this or don't know about it. I have had my trusty British Airways American Express card for years, and I hold it as dear to my heart as an old love letter from an ex-boyfriend. Actually dearer. Now, I love traveling and I do at least 5 or 6 trips a year, but people are always shocked when I tell them how cheap it is. For example, right now I'm in Brazil and I only paid £200 for return direct flights in premium economy. I go to Ibiza twice a summer and I regularly pay only £50 for a return business class flight. How? points. Now, this is not an ad for the BA Amex card, but it's just how I use it. And I honestly think that if you love traveling and you aren't doing this, then you're missing a trick. This is a card that connects with your BA frequent flyer program and gives you points for every £1 that you spend. You can then use those points to pay for flights, meaning you'll only pay the tax for any flight that you book. Now, I supercharge this by also using their partner program, whereby clicking through to retailers that you want to shop with from the BA shopping website and buying with your Amex card, they will give you extra points. For example, 8 points per pound spent. The last 2 months, I've been renovating my new house and I have had to buy so many boring things like paint, bathroom fittings, furniture items, and I have done every single bit of this spend on my Amex card through their website. And I've earned more than 20,000 points just in the last 2 months, which is alone enough for a business class return flight to Ibiza. What you do really need to be careful with though is paying back the balance in full every month so that you don't get charged huge interest rates that Amex typically charges. But honestly, if you just set up a direct debit to pay off in full monthly, you're going to avoid that entirely and get all these amazing travel perks for next to nothing. So it is so worth it. I literally save thousands a year doing this. If you want to get started, I'm going to link the card application in the description box below. So just scroll down and click on that. So much of saving money is about little habits that you do consistently over a long time, rather than drastically cutting back and making big changes to your life that frankly are going to make you miserable if you live like that forever. 8 years ago, I stumbled across the existence of investing apps. With my finance background, I knew a bit about investing, but I wasn't actually doing it because I thought it had to be some huge amount of money, paying a fund manager to do it for you, or having to know lots about financial markets or follow the markets. But all of that flipped on its head once I discovered investment apps. So I downloaded an app called Moneybox. Again, this is not an ad, just something that I like using. So at first, what they used to do and how I invested was something called roundups. And that is investing the difference between what I was spending. For example, £3.50 on a coffee, rounded up to the next number of £4 into my investment account. So in this example, it would say 50p for me. It did this by connecting through to my bank account, and that allowed the app to track my spending. And every time I made a purchase, it would direct debit the difference and round it up to the next pound and automatically invest that for me. I gradually increased this amount, having the app just direct debit £50 a week for me. The key to making this work is to make it automatic. If you told me today, hey Dahlia, can you transfer £50 away into an account that you're not going to touch? I would be like, what? No. But if direct debits are coming out of your account regularly and you don't need to physically go and transfer them into an investment account, this just quietly runs in the background. And when you check your bank account, you mentally adjust your spending habits to how much you have left. This for me has been the number one habit I've developed that allowed me to save towards a 100k deposit. No, this on its own didn't get me 100k, but it has created an amazing habit that has honestly created wealth for me for life. The thing about building wealth and hitting your financial goals is that you need to make it as easy as possible for yourself by getting out of your own way. There is such a psychological barrier, I think, to saving money when you have to do it manually. Your brain starts justifying all the other things that you need the money for instead. But when it's automated, that runs in the background while life happens. And that's just one less thing that you need to think about doing. So let's crunch the numbers on my investment app savings. I invested £50 a month for 8 years. That is a future investment value of £27,944, 28p, with a total interest earned of £7,094. This is at your average rate of return of investments, which is around 7% a year historically, and a good indication of what index funds generally return. So with all these habits so far, we are at £76,259,000 saved in 8 years. The final habit that I've developed is a lifestyle habit of making more money. Now, hear me out. Everyone talks these days about a side hustle, but I want to talk about this in the context of creating rather than consuming and my own personal story. In the book Rich Habits, Daily Success Habits of Wealthy Individuals, the author emphasizes that creating more than you consume is a fundamental habit for wealth building. Wealthy individuals focus on producing value, such as starting businesses, investing, or self education, rather than spending excessive time on entertainment or consumption. Since I arrived in London, I have basically never watched TV. Yes, there are a few shows I've binge watched over the years, but I could count these on one hand. The average person goes to their 9 to 5, comes home and watches TV, rinse repeat for 40 years until retirement, and what do you have? Probably a lot of boredom, to be honest. But more importantly, you're not creating any value for yourself with this habit. So, what have I been doing with all that spare time that I don't spend watching TV? The short answer is I don't have any spare time because I always keep myself busy. Busy doing what, you may ask? I do actually get asked this a lot. Well, when I first arrived in London 22 years ago, I had no money, no job, no plan, and I somehow had to come up with £300 for rent in a month's time. Yes, rent did used to be that cheap in London. Did I mention I also had £5,000 in credit card debt after backpacking for 6 months? So yeah, I was broke. So based on my need to want to eat the next day, I got straight to finding a job, and within 1 week, I had 3 jobs. I didn't let any kind of job be beneath me. The jobs that I got were folding clothes at Zara, working in a cloakroom in a nightclub, and promo girl work doing shifts where I would hand out flyers or product samples to people in the street. I did what I had to do. Then I got my first full-time job in London in marketing, but I kept my nightclub job. So Monday to Friday I was in the office, and Wednesday to Saturday nights I was working in a nightclub until 3 a.m. in the morning. Was I tired? Absolutely. Did I quickly start making enough money to fully pay my credit cards off within a year and have enough left to regularly take holidays? Also, yes. After 2 years of that, I decided to upskill by going to university and doing a finance degree. And after that, I started a job in asset management. Because I'm someone who can't sit still, the second year of working in the corporate world, I decided I wanted to upskill even more. So I enrolled in a full-time master's degree in the evenings alongside my full-time job. So safe to say I had no spare time and no life. But importantly, this extra study allowed me to upskill and earn a higher income from my day job. As soon as I finished the degree, I decided I wanted to pursue my passion, so I started a business in my evenings and weekends. That grind of coming home from my 8 to 6 finance job and working on my own business, which eventually started generating me enough revenue to quit the day job, is one of the keys to how I have built myself up to what I have today, which is working, doing something that I love, with more freedom of my time, and having bought 2 properties along the way. But even now, though I'm doing something that I love, I'm constantly asking myself, what else can I do? How can I generate even more income for myself? I've done this in so many different ways over the years, from starting an online retail business, selling products on Etsy, running a rental property, content creation. My point is, the what doesn't matter. It's the habit of using your spare time effectively to generate more income for yourself. That is what matters. I didn't get to where I am by sitting on my hands, and you won't achieve great things either unless you use your best asset, which is time. There are so many ways to make extra cash these days, from selling digital products to furniture flipping to taking on additional work. You're limited only by your choices on how you choose to spend your time. Between all of these methods of generating extra income for myself, I've been able to make anywhere from £200 to £2,000 of extra money a month. And this is what has taken me over the finish line to saving for my £100,000 savings goal. So I hope I've shown you what is the ultimate point of this video, which is that small habits done consistently add up to huge returns over time. Having a big goal like 100,000 saved may seem like something that is so huge to you that you will never get there. But it is really important to remind yourself that consistency and time beats out inconsistency and trying to rush to the finish line every single time. So if you're incorporating all of these habits and you want to know the exact steps you can take towards financial freedom, watch this video next. And if you want to get started on your investing journey, watch this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this inspired you to change little habits one at a time to make huge steps towards your financial goals. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and see you next week for the next installation of how you can get on top of your finances. Ciao for now.